This is macOS Ken.
Another positive note on Apple, talk of a phone from OpenAI, and a piece of Steve Jobs' Pixar history for sale. It is Tuesday, the 28th of April, 2026. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Copilot Money. Your money beautifully organized. Get 2 months free with code macOSKen at copilot.money/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani doesn't seem worried about Apple and Ragnarok. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote on Monday, wherein he said he and his believe Apple has memory costs well under control based on its recent product launches, where it raised prices modestly on higher-end products while keeping prices flat on budget-friendly devices. That's his thinking on what's to come. As for what just happened, the analyst got his guesses in ahead of this week's second quarter fiscal year 2026 earnings report. Looking at those guesses, he thinks Apple will report iPhone revenue growth of 20% versus the street's expectation of 18.7% per snickety. He thinks Apple's services segment will show healthy mid-teens growth. The way he sees it, Apple Pay, iCloud, licensing, and an incremental Apple Care uptick from strong hardware sales should more than offset weaker gaming-driven App Store trends. As for revenue and earnings, Team Evercore expects Apple to deliver in-line to slight upside versus consensus revenue and earnings per share estimates of $109.2 billion on EPS of $1.94. Net wraps the note. Apple remains one of our top picks for calendar year 26 as we see strong near-term fundamentals across both hardware and services, coupled with an attractive suite of potential new AI offerings that could drive incremental services and refresh dollars. While memory remains a concern, we think Apple has several internal levers to offset much of the impact. Mr. Daryanani has an outperform rating on Apple's shares. His price target on the shares is $330. With iPhone defying gravity, with Apple computers, seriously, computers, hard to get, with services continuing to scale heights, and with analysts lining up to say how good things have looked and how good they continue to look, why were Apple shares down 3.5% on Monday? It was probably that Union store that's suing them, right? I'm kidding. It's actually AI. Don't at me. I heard it. I almost always say a drop in Apple's share price is almost never just one thing. Seriously, though, the only two negatives I saw on Apple on Monday were the aforementioned suit from the Union store, which I doubt Wall Street is taking seriously, and a rumor that OpenAI is making a phone. TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo went to the Heil site Monday, posting a post under a banner that read in part, OpenAI set to redefine smartphones. According to the post, users are not trying to use a pile of apps, they're trying to get tasks done and fulfill needs through the phone. This fundamentally changes how people think about smartphones. Forgive me, but I'm going to argue. I understand App Store gaming revenue is going down, but I think people still use smartphones for playing games and scrolling TikTok and reading news and all sorts of other things that might not be front of mind for the class of people who think you can't spell success without AI. Has anybody pointed out, by the way, that you literally can't spell failure without AI? Again, don't at me. That's just snark. From OpenAI's side, making a phone might make sense. According to the analyst, only by fully controlling both the operating system and hardware can OpenAI deliver a comprehensive AI agent service. The The smartphone is the only device that captures the user's full real-time state, which is the most important input for real-time AI agent inference, and smartphones will remain the largest scale device category for the foreseeable future. Ming-Chi Kuo figures OpenAI is well positioned thanks to its consumer recognition, its years of accumulated user data, and its leading AI models. As far as the business side goes, the piece says OpenAI may bundle subscriptions with hardware to build a new AI agent ecosystem with developers. A piece from the Next Web went pretty in-depth on the analyst's thinking. Considering the concept, the piece says the phone Kuo describes is not a smartphone with an AI assistant. It is a device where the AI agent is the interface and the app is obsolete. Instead of downloading applications and navigating screens, users would interact with agents that handle tasks directly, ordering transport, booking restaurants, managing email, conducting research, writing messages. Yeah, okay, I get the appeal, though for me personally, there are a few hurdles. First, everything that's come at the iPhone has missed. Someday something will replace the iPhone. Whether that'll be another smartphone or a new form factor, I don't know. iPhone can't rule forever, but so far at least, everything that has come at the iPhone has missed. Second, I'm not sure I would trust OpenAI or ChatGPT to work in my best interest. If I ask my phone to find me a plane ticket or a good place for dinner, how do I know it's doing right by me as opposed to a paid partner or advertiser? This is honestly one of the reasons I hate the idea of ads in Apple Maps, but at least you'll be able to see that ads in Apple Maps are ads. And the third hurdle? Games, videos, doom scrolling. While we might use our phones for ordering transport, booking restaurants, and the like, we also use them for dumb stuff. I didn't expect to go off on all that. Maybe that's not what happened to Apple shares on Monday, and it really doesn't matter anyway. One day's drop does not a disaster make. Looking back over Ming-Chi Kuo's post, though, there is one more hurdle. Time. Mass production of the OpenAI phone isn't expected until 2028, so the first one won't hit for a couple of years, assuming it hits at all. Meanwhile, Apple is still working on AI implementation of its own. So the AI phone that replaces iPhone could actually be an iPhone before OpenAI rolls out the first one. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Copilot Money. Your money beautifully organized. Personal finance can be tough to track. Copilot Money simplifies the process. It lets you track money coming in, money going out, where you stand on financial goals, and how your investments are performing. All of that in one beautiful app for iPhone, iPad, the Mac, or through their full-featured web experience. If you're connected to the internet, you are connected to your financial life. Copilot Money features seamless cross-device syncing with a focus on user privacy. No ads, no upsells, and your info is never sold. Right now you can get 2 months free with code MacOSKen at copilot.money/MacOSKen. Recognized by Apple as a must-have finance app and as a smart way to save money, you can try it for no money with a 2-month free trial with offer code MacOSKen at copilot.money/MacOSKen. Copilot Money. Your money beautifully organized. Try 2 months free with offer code MacOSKen at copilot.money/MacOSKen. About that lawsuit I kept mentioning earlier. Bloomberg Law says the union backing employees at the soon-to-be closed Apple Towson Town Center location in Maryland has filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board, or NLRB, accusing the company of illegally discriminating against the shop staff by refusing to let them easily transfer to other locations. You may remember Apple's statement a couple of weeks ago. The company announced that 3 stores were closing permanently: Towson Town Center, Apple Trumbull in Trumbull, Connecticut, and Apple North County in Escondido, California. While employees at all 3 stores will see disruption, news of the Maryland store's closure was loudest. That's because it was the first Apple store in the U.S. to unionize. In a statement to MacRumors week before last, Apple said team members at Trumbull and North County will continue their roles at nearby Apple retail stores. Towson employees will be eligible to apply for open roles at Apple in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement. Taking umbrage with that was the union, which gave its own statement to MacRumors. According to that, Apple's claim that the collective bargaining agreement prevents relocation is simply false and raises serious concerns that this closure is a cynical attempt to bust the union. We're exploring all legal options and will work with elected officials and allies to hold Apple accountable. That apparently starts with the NLRB. The complaint says the unionized workers have been discriminated against by Apple in regards to their terms and conditions of employment in order to discourage them from exercising their rights. The lawyer for the union went a bit further in the Bloomberg Law piece, saying Apple told Towson employees they could not simply transfer because their union bargained that right away. That is not true, according to the lawyer. The good news for the soon-to-be ousted employees, they're not going home empty-handed. Per the union contract, Bloomberg Law says most of Apple's Towson employees will receive severance when the store closes in June, which is rare for retail workers. They'll get 4 weeks of pay plus another week for each year of employment at the store, according to the report. As for what happens next, it's hard to see the Towson case going anywhere. If the NLRB finds merit in the union's argument but can't broker a deal between the two, the case could go before an NLRB judge. The thing is, the person at the NLRB who'll decide on next steps is an appointee of the current administration who previously represented Apple in labor board disputes at a former firm. A new week meant new developer betas this week. Pieces from MacRumors had Apple on Monday seeding the 4th betas of iOS and iPadOS 26.5 to members of its developer program. Same goes for macOS Tahoe 26.5, as well as 26.5 versions of watchOS, tvOS, and visionOS. Apple has introduced a new payment option for Apple developers and the people who support them. The company posted a notice to its developer site Monday announcing monthly subscriptions with a 12-month commitment. Apple says the payment option lets developers offer subscribers more affordable options. People can cancel their subscription at any time, which will prevent the subscription from renewing after they've completed their agreed-to payments to fulfill their commitment. For the consumer, sounds kind of like a double-edged sword. Let's say an app offers a monthly fee of $10, but an annual plan for $60 billed monthly at $5 per month with a 12-month commitment. Half price for the consumer, not a bad deal. But what if even $5 turns out to be too much? Or what if the timbre of the app or the developer changes to such an extent you don't want to give them any more money? Well, too bad, because 12-month commitment. On the upside, though, again, lower cost for the consumer. Also, guaranteed recurring revenue for the developer. Speaking not as a developer, but as somebody who doesn't get a traditional paycheck, recurring revenue is my favorite. To provide transparency, Apple says consumers can easily view the number of completed and remaining payments for the subscription in their Apple account. Apple will also send email and, if opted in, push notifications ahead of their renewal date to remind them of their upcoming purchase. And finally today, a piece of Pixar history is going up for auction with Steve Jobs' name all over it. Actually, his name's only one place, but it was handwritten by him and is accompanied by other names of note. Apple Insider says Nate D. Sanders Auctions is putting a first edition copy of Toy Story, The Art and Making of the Animated Film up for bids. Originally owned by a software developer who worked on the film, the book is signed by Toy Story director John Lasseter, former Pixar exec Ed Catmull, and former Pixar CEO Steve Jobs, who also worked at Apple a time or two. According to the lot's description, Pixar items signed by Jobs are very rare, with this example being among the most unique they have encountered. The product of Jobs' legendary vision, Toy Story was the first computer-animated feature film, and also the first film released by Pixar, the company whose risky investment by Jobs made him a billionaire. Owning this bit of Jobs' Pixar film history won't come cheap. Bidding on the book starts at $20,000. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Copilot Money. Get 2 months free with code macOS Ken at copilot.money/macOS Ken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOS Ken. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOS Ken at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Pitter patter, let's get at her.